Hi everyone, and welcome back to History and Relics for part 2 of our program, an interview with Bill Hixson of Hixson's Inc. out of Lakewood, Ohio. Today we'll be wrapping up our interview with Mr. Hixson, but before we begin, let's recap. Hixson's is a place you can visit any time of the year, and especially Christmas, and where you'll be able to see original store display figurines from Higbee's and Halle's, where you'll be able to buy specially designed ornaments from Mr. Hixson, like those here celebrating Mr. Jingling. And there is nowhere else in Northeast Ohio where you can come meet the designer and buy their ornaments, the same ones that adorn the White House trees. Bill Hixson has had one of the most coveted positions of an official White House decorator for nearly 4 decades. He has met and became friends with many presidents and first ladies, including the Reagans, the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas, and the Trumps. Now, it's not about being a Democrat or a Republican. It's about patriotism and being honored with such a great opportunity of being a chosen decorator for the White House. It's about Christmas and traditions. Mr. Hixson loves what he does, and he loves putting a smile on everyone's face. And guess what? He's still doing it. He's still designing ornaments, and you can come visit and purchase your own, and he'll even sign it for you or sign it to your loved one. So join us as we continue our exciting visit with Mr. Bill Hixson on History and Relics. As Mr. Hixson was saying in part 1 of our program, there are ornaments here for everyone, for every interest and every price range, from $2 to $5 to $25 and more. And just look at the awesome array of ornaments here. Round ones, square ones, diamond shaped, and every color under the rainbow. The famous pickle is here, the hedgehog, teddy bears, panda bears, tiny homes, trees, pine cones, Santa ornaments, snowmen, elves, birds and flowers, boats and wagons, toy soldiers, and let's not forget about the sports advocate. There's footballs and baseballs and soccer balls. And how about all the fruits and vegetables and all the different foods? There's so much more here. And let's not forget about our servicemen and first responders. Well, there's gifts and ornaments for all of them as well. So go ahead and take a look at a few more of these wonderful ornament options, and then we'll continue on with our interview with Mr. Christmas, Bill Hixson.
I had the name of Mr. Christmas because I so love Christmas here. Some of the people called me that. But what really worked well was Roscoe Village at their gift shop. I went in and did some glass ornaments and whatnot. And one year they asked me to do the lighting of the Christmas tree. It's a very important thing that they have right near Thanksgiving. And they asked me to be the main person to talk about Christmas and then light a single candle. And then that candle, I light 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those people will turn around and light the other. And they have 1,000 people in front of People in the large street there lighting a candle. They still do that. That's one of the most moving things. And I was introduced as Mr. Christmas.
And it stuck.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Now, you mentioned, I want to get into a couple of things about, again, we're talking in reference to traditions and preserving history. And preserving history. And I think to some extent, you are a preserver of history, because even though it's before my time, I remember stories. And in fact, when I was a little kid, I do remember going downtown Cleveland, even though it wasn't as robust as it was maybe in the 50s, 60s, or 70s. But I do remember store displays being out front of like Tower City or the Halle building when I was younger. But it wasn't anywhere in comparison to years before that. And I noticed up top here, you have some actual figurines from Hallies.
Yes.
So can you talk about how you came into those, or?
Well, one year, Higbee's had in their furniture level, they did a Williamsburg furniture and the things that were being made. And they know that I could do a demonstration of how to make the wreaths that they do in Williamsburg. Williamsburg actually really didn't get quite as known as this day is for Christmas, is because Rockefeller decided that he would restore that town. And then he said, Christmas, you have to have something on the front doors that is a wreath of some sort. So you see a lot of, down in Williamsburg, you see a lot of apple wreaths, or you might see some fruit wreaths with a pineapple. The pineapple, as I Williamsburg time into the 1700s, was a symbol of hospitality, because pineapples were very expensive, coming originally from southern Pacific to our American forefathers. So the pineapple not only was used as fresh fruit on the table, but eventually wood carvers put it on the bed, or on the posters, or on the staircase and whatnot. So I did, for example, I did the apple wreath, I did the pineapple wreath, and did several other wreaths, and did a lecture. We had about 500 people that came to see that. And for a couple of years I did it for them. Then, eventually, when Hallies was going out of business, they made a big mistake. As many of the department stores, they moved. They thought they could keep the downtown area, as well as moving out into the suburbs. Well, the downtown you had to pay to park, and it had more difficult, where you could just pull up at least out of here. So why go downtown? But downtown, there used to be thousands of people that would go there from Thanksgiving on. My parents took me down there to see this when I was this small, the department stores. The sitting under a tree that was that tall one, and it had that talking tree that talks to you there. Hallies had that. The Higbees had the silver grill upstairs where they would serve you lunch in a little tin stove that they had. Eventually they got to be too quite expensive to put the food in the stove. They made it out of cardboard instead. But those have been wonderful things, wonderful memories. So anyway, we also did a lot of wedding shows, where we did the flowers for Higbee's, Hallies, May Company, Bonwood Tellers, and Sterling Davis. 5 different stores. Each one has a wedding show the same day. 40 bouquets, 40 bouquets, 40 bouquets. So I made 200 bouquets. So that's how I developed a lot of traffic for weddings and so forth at the time.
Now, did you make any of the displays at the point for Hallies Downtown? Anything? Okay.
No, never did that.
So what you did for
I
other
did for
stores?
Did for Sterling's.
Okay.
At one time, they took the front window out of there and moved our old-fashioned candy store downtown.
Well, that's cool.
So anyway, when they went out of business, they had different people that were the people that I knew from the bridal department were now selling the things that they had, the furniture and whatnot. And I said, if they ever sell any of the figures, I'd like to buy them. So when those finally came up for sale, they called me and said, that's Denison West 65th Street in the warehouse. But I had to buy everything.
Oh, jeez.
There was like 40 trees. This is one of the trees right here. 40 reeds. The reeds are this tall. And we eventually sold them to different people, and we kept this. There's a couple that we have left of these. There's a wreath about the same size, but the wreaths were made of the same material. What you can't see here, this is wonderfully made because the wire frame is all wrapped with thread to cover over the metal. And this is a fairly natural looking
Limb.
Christmas tree, even though it's plastic. So that's how. First we went to one place, it's 65th and there was a section of all these things on the table. Somebody was buying all the animals, and I said, I want the figures. Now the figures are all the small ones. There were some of them that are in our right now. They're around the corner here. They're about so big. I found out those stars that were so big. In 1964, they stopped making. Sylvester was the company that made them, but they had a catalog I saw. That size was $600. And the bigger ones were over $1,000. In 1964, you could buy a station wagon for $1,000. Our Halle figures over here, there are screws and tiny tip and some of those. We got 6 station wagons on display over there.
Yeah.
So that's how we got those.
Wow.
We got the smaller ones to begin with. And then when Schottenstein was moved, he said he was going to run the Hallies over here at Westgate. He said that was only about 6 months, and he decided to get rid of it. He had the bigger ones in another warehouse. So I went to the warehouse and he said, yep, you can have them, but you have to buy everything, all these things that go along with it.
Oh, wow.
I debated, I said, oh, I don't know, how much you want for it? And he mentioned the price. I said, oh, well, maybe I can bargain them down a couple $100. He says, no, we have another man coming in here this next weekend, and after that, if he hasn't, I'll talk to you. I said, oh, God, like a fool. I should have kept my mouth shut because those things are precious. So they called the next week. The man didn't want them. I could have it for the price that he mentioned. So
That's how you got them. Wow.
we had several hundred of them.
Really?
More to that story.
Now, did you know Mr. Jingling personally, or did you ever meet him?
No, when I was growing up, he wasn't around.
Okay.
And when I was working, he really was around. Now, there are several of them. We have the short man, that's the one everybody remembers as being the first one. But the Mr. Jingling, his name was Mr. Keys, so that he was taller.
Okay.
He came in here and said, I'm Mr. Jingling, I'd like to have an ornament. I didn't know who he was. I played stupid, it wasn't hard. It was not. And I photographed him front and side and back and top. And I got the story from him. And I made the ornaments for him.
So that's how the ornament of Mr. Jingling came
Well,
about.
he wanted wooden. I said, it's too costly. You're better off with a glass one. I could have my glass makers over in Europe do it. So we made a mold of it, send it over there, and they can take a mold and make. No, they make. I made a form of it. They say.
Okay.
Of a composition.
Yep.
It hardens up. Then it takes them does an iron mold. It goes around it. And it's blown by mouth blown. It's a long tube. We have actually we have a whole series showing how the glass is blown that way.
Okay.
It's a long tube, goes into the mold, and this
So as he blows, the person blows it, it fills up the mold.
fills the mold. And traditionally, most of the European molds are one direction. you see somebody that has a leg or an arm going the other way, those are awfully hard to do because if you do this and you do that, this all becomes very thin.
Mm.
In fact, we have a railroad car locomotive, and they had to blow it from here all the way out to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And they, out of 100 pieces, they only got maybe about 70.
Mm.
Those other 30, they just had to throw away because it was too thin. Schmuckers.
Okay.
And Mike Schmucker has to be good.
That's right.
So we made a whole batch of things for them as well.
Okay.
And we do for other people, other parts of the country.
How did you get introduced to becoming one of the chosen folks for the White House decorations?
Well, I have to go way back to when I was doing the lecture with Tommy Bright across the country. And one of my Japanese person from Japan came, took my class, and went back to Japan, says, "You've got to come over and teach over in Japan." I said, "Get me 20 students, I'll be there." A week later, she wrote back, "We have 30 students when you come." Week later, "We have 50 students." "We have 150 students." 200 students. I said, "My God, I better get over before all Tokyo is going to be meeting me at the airport." All my interest was Europe. So anyway, went over there. And again, I wrote a book. Because over there, it's not enough just to talk about it. You have to have it step by step by step on how flower arrangements are made.
Okay.
But anyway, my school, with Tommy Bright doing those lectures across the country, those books help produce and bring in connectivity because they would sell for about $80 to $100.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was half in Japanese, half in English. Anyway, one of my students, Nancy Clark, was a very good student. And when she graduated, I remembered her thinking, "Well, she's a good student. If I can help her in any way, I certainly will. I would help any of my students." She would call and say, my husband is in the military, but now in Los Angeles. Can you recommend a florist out there that I should work for? No, I went out there, so I knew the florist. It's Podesta Baldacci. Get a job there. So you got a job there. Now we're at Plano, Texas. Plano, Texas down there. I know the florist down there. And got rid of the name. She had a job there. And now her husband is now in Honolulu. Baritania flowers, because as I went to Japan, I stopped in Honolulu and taught there as well. So, I noticed she got the job at the Reagan era, slightly before, and she called me when she got the Reagan era. She said, "Could you come to help?" And so I would bring my students and my teachers, 15 people, and they would have between 10 in the flower shop and another 10. We'd have 35 people that would do 200 wreaths, 200 arrangements, 26 trees, every pier table, something. And sometimes we worked early in the summer to do the Santa Clauses that would fit to this and whatnot, and what have you. So that's how I didn't know how she got the job until on my 75th birthday, that's a good many years back, they had a surprise birthday party for me at one of their Chinese restaurants downtown. And I always went to that restaurant, so I went there. And lo and behold, here we have all these people from Washington, and some of my students, and of course all my people were down there waiting for me. Surprise, surprise. It was the only surprise birthday party I ever had in my life. Birthday to me was my mother, my father, my brother, and myself. And that was it.
Wow, that's
My
nice.
parents always did a lemon meringue pie for me. My brother, he always got another type of pie, cherry pie. So anyway, everyone got up to start telling stories about me. I said, "Be careful, tell a story about me. I can tell one about you as well." And it's true. So Nancy Clark stood up and she said, I've got another story about Bill. She said, when my husband finally went to Washington, it was their station, I went to the White House. I'd like to have a job here. There's nothing available. I'd work part-time for you. Nothing available. I'd work on call when you need me. Nothing available. I'd work for free. Nothing available. They said, after about half an hour talking with me, they said, what's your background? He says, I'm a graduate of Bill Hixson School in Lakewood, Ohio. He says, can you start tomorrow? That's how they got the job. Because I was into Baltimore, I was into Washington, and those people at the White House would come and see what we were doing. And I could do the most spectacular design, but nobody's ever going to sell the damn thing. It's still the designers. It's all about me, you know what I'm saying? My idea is to talk about Oasis, I'll talk about others has done, common sense. That's how she got the job. So she asked me to come and help at the White House, that's how I went.
Wow.
So
you
from Reagan on.
From Reagan on.
Now, Reagan, we were there actually before he had done the Christmas trees and everything. Because they come in, the old regime doesn't leave until January. But we came for when the first inauguration.
Okay.
So I met them then, handshakes and whatnot. Shortly thereafter, he got shot.
That's
So
right.
that Christmas when I came, clear the rooms, stay in your room, the Reagan are going through. He would always do this and wave at you. She's always very cautious. Oh, she had a lot of bad press, but she's a wonderful wife to that man.
Barbara Bush or Nancy Reagan.
Nancy Reagan.
Nancy Reagan.
She hated purple. When anyone else would send purple flowers in the range, we had to take them out and replace it with something else. Anything with a purple ornament went to the top of her, not down where she could see it. She loved red, as you know. And she protected her husband. But I'm running around with, and all of us are running around with shears and a knife in our hand. We could be crazy. Who knew?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I give her credit. She loves what we did with a topiary tree, a little fat one. I did ribbon roses around it. I made roses around the outside. And golden chain around it. And came down to the little box and so forth. And we made the one for our luncheon. Now she had a lot of friends from California come to visit. She gave it to them. The next day she said, I have been celebrating another one of those. I ended up making a dozen before I left at that time. Because it kept on going with the same ones she liked.
So so since Reagan, so we've got Reagan, we've got
Reagan's, Bush's,
Clinton's,
Clinton, Bush's, Obama, and Trump. This year would have been the 40th year of going. However, I cannot go with a mask. We only did 35 people, all the way up until Obama. And Nancy retired. Nancy Clark retired. She had some physical problems. And she did a lecture across the country. She said, called me on the phone and said, Bill, give me some stories about Nancy Reagan. Bill, give me some stories about Barbara Bush. Give me some stories about Laura Bush. And I could do it because we got to meet these people and talk to them. Anyway, so she would have the program, and she'd have a bunch of florists do some of the arrangements, and she'd show some pictures, and she would get $6,000 or $10,000 for a 2-hour program. Wow. I would do a program for $400, and I did all the work. It was a 2 or 3 hour program. It was about 12 or 15 arrangements I made, and could tell the stories, which shows the power of the White House.
So, of those presidents, who was your favorite to work with, or your your best, maybe first
I'll really
lady?
answer this way. I love the women. So I love Barbara. I love Nancy. I love Clinton's and Mrs. Obama. and this lake is there now. However, the bushes, the first and the second bushes, were the most interested in the Christmas. And they would come down 6 to 10 times a day to see what we're doing. In case it was Barbara, first would come Millie the dog with the footsteps, then would be Barbara, then would be the president in there, and they're both in their blue jeans and sweaters and whatnot. Mrs. Clinton was not as much into Christmas as her husband, Bill Clinton. He liked to decorate his own tree. Now, one time he was on a long tour, and we said, we'll help him, we started. He came in and said, take it all down. I think I want to do it myself. He took it all down and he put it all up. But he yelled at me one time, I've never seen a man in a suit and tie on top of cherry pickers on the Christmas trees in the East Room. I said, stick around, President, I'm the only one that doesn't mind going up to the top of it. People are afraid of going that high. And later on he came in and they said, he wants to meet you, he wants to get a photograph with you. So I went upstairs to meet him. And he said, I understand you've been here a number of years. He said, yes, President, you don't have to be good, you just have to be old. I thought, why the hell did I say that? But it's true, you know, there's just so many ways that you can do certain things.
Yeah.
Every year they do a topiary tree, every year they call me and say, they're having trouble with the topiary tree. Well, you can't do X's on it, otherwise it looks like X, which makes the spot. You have to do things that are going to fit and work that way. So, I'm a troubleshooter at the White House, have been for many years.
That's neat. Very good. So you're not going back this year because of the COVID and the masks and all that.
Obama now brings in 350 people.
Oh wow.
So the party that he has is not for us.
It's much larger, a lot more people now participating.
Well, I'm sure he's a very smart person. He's got 350 people that are going to vote for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
So, one year they brought a designer from a clothing designer, a very famous man from the New York City. He sent his crew in, and they were doing the mantelpieces in the East Room. I'm usually in the East Room for many years, up until Obama. And 4 trees and 4 mantles and the nativity sets that's in that room as well. And they were doing the mantles. We had placed large globes, glass globes with a big fat candle, 2 of them on each of the mantles. And we did Oasis down here and used magnolia with it. I was listening to them, and the head usher went through, and they had the magnolia from here to here, and now they're just taking magnolia and just stopping it so it goes taller, but it didn't hit any water. And the head usher, he's the main man that is in charge of anything that happens below the president on the lower floors, has to go through him. He said, you're going to have to get that into the water. You have to get into the water. And as he left the room, they said, so I could hear, who the hell do you think he is? We're not going to do it. I said, you have to do it. He's the main man here. They didn't pay any attention to me. So as soon as they left, they tear all those things down and redo them. And then in the state dining room, they have a table that's about 6 foot across and about 15, 18 foot tall, where the food is served. And they came in there, and here we had the same globes there, and Oasis. Instead of putting things in Oasis, they just laid the greens on the table. They filled the tables from side to side with greens. I was standing there thinking, oh God, we're going to have to redo it. And in comes the head cook. He was German. He said, my God in Himmel, we're going to have a place for my trays. He said, don't worry about it. We're going to redo it. You'll have plenty of space for your trays. Some of these people are young. They think they're super artistic. They haven't got the one thing that you need to go into, which is common sense. So anyway, now when I go to the White House, I'm surprised at how many people of the White House people come to me. The curator, the electricians, the carpenters, the guards, all want a picture with me. I'm saying, why do you want a picture with me? I find out why. They're only there 30 years. After 30 years, they retire. Well, I'm part of their Christmas of that 30 years, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Well, he was one big burly man last year. Big guy. And I would say he's about 6'4", 6'5", and he looks like he'd be away. Bill Hixson gave me a pickle for Christmas. And he was so proud to have that pickle. I thought, well, it means something to him.
Absolutely.
That pickle means so many people.
Absolutely.
Children now that have the houses that use the pickle on the Christmas tree, they don't come down to open the presents first. They come down to find the pickle first.
Yep. Yep.
And then they go to open up the presents.
Yep. Just like the tradition has it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Young people, middle-aged, old people love traditions.
Yes. Absolutely.
We don't sell things here, we sell memories. We can give them a new memory, or they can see one of the old memories and choose one of them.
Now, in relation to memories, what, and I'm sure there's probably been thousands of customers across
Yes.
this threshold. Tell me a favorite story about maybe it's the best customer, maybe it's a customer that you see most often, or
There's a lady, up until about 3 years ago, she was our customer across at 13615 Detroit Avenue, and we moved here, she was one of the first ones. And she bought, at that time, some of the ornaments for her children. And she kept coming up here until about, she must have been very close to 100 by the time she'd still come in here with her high heels, all dressed up, and buy, not only for her children, now it's great-children, and we get a whole batch of them. It took her a long time, and I had to put a name on every one of them, it's all right, and the dates, and put my name on them as well.
Oh, that's great.
And many of them, I would make sure that her name went on it, because now that she may be gone now, as they decorate the tree, she will always be remembered by the ornament.
Yep.
What you have, that is clothing, food, candy, the ornaments will be things that will be part of the things that become heirlooms to people.
Heirlooms. Yep.
I don't care if it's a dime store one or a paper mache one, but when it goes in the tree and it becomes part of it, remember, this is from Billy, this is from Louise, from Aunt Marie, whatnot. I have some from my Aunt Eva. She's long gone. She passed away in 1956. And I still have the angel that goes on the top of my tree at home. The halo is a little bit cocked. One of the wings is broken, but I have to hide it by putting a piece of green in front of it. But it has to go on the top of the tree.
It doesn't matter, does it?
No,
Doesn't matter.
no.
That's right. See, that's what I do. I have some of my parents when they were young, their ornaments,
yeah.
and they're tin, and there's a Santa Claus and a snowman, and I was always brought up just like what you mentioned. I was always brought up. You put either the oldest ones or the most precious ones to you at the top of the tree. You know, and that's what I do.
Well, we sell a lot of, I'll tell you what, a lot of things we sell a lot of. We sell other Irish things. We sell a lot of German things, and we have different countries and all the legends that go along with it. But probably the number one seller is when the bride and groom get married, somebody's going to buy them a box of ornaments that has all the legend for good luck, prosperity, a successful life, happy home, all that type of thing. Because when the kids first get married, they don't have enough ornaments for the Christmas tree.
Right. Right.
So that's a good gift.
Right.
Another gift that's very good is when the first baby comes, or if they buy their own ornaments themselves, our first Christmas together ornaments,
Yep.
those things. But there are people that collect ornaments, and I smile because I'm one of those. One time I had 5 trees, 4 upstairs, 2 downstairs. Upstairs I put all of my old ornaments that are very fragile, they get broken, so I leave those up there year round. I go upstairs, play the music boxes, play with the teddy bears or the train sets. in July and you're in a bad mood. You can't be in a bad mood when you come up there and do that. But I thought, basically it started about 20 years ago when people began to do 8 trees, 10 trees, 5 trees. I began to hear more and more of this.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I started on them, the one book I have here that talks about traditions of Christmas, I found out that in the 1600s, Germany was taking trees upside down to hang the ornaments from it. And here we were hanging ornaments upside down that we thought were clever back in the 60s. Baron King Carlos, or Schwitz, I believe it is, brought the first Christmas trees into Helsinki. He must have been a Christmasaholic like so many of us are, because he brought 8 trees for his house back in the 1600s.
Wow.
8 trees. So, you know, as I keep on saying, wait long enough, everything comes back in style.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
One thing you get absolutely new is something that is a new product that never was appeared. We did wedding shows, and we did one show that we had a dress that was so plain, we did a garland of flowers on it and did that on the dress. When I wrote the wedding book that we have for the different, we got pictures of the old weddings. My God, there in the Victorian girl in the wedding dress with a garland of flowers on the dress. I hadn't seen it when I did it. That's there. That was done before, 100 years before I did it.
So is there anything that's on your list to do yet that you haven't done or that you've thought about doing? Or
Yes.
because I've read some articles that you don't think about things very long. You're pretty much a go-getter when something crosses your mind.
Well, right now I'm preparing for this next year. There's only 13 themes for Christmas,
Okay.
but those 13 break into many more. For example, if you say Santa Claus is a theme, well, how about his suit, his hat, his scarf, his belt, his shoes, his boots? Then you've got the sleigh, you have the elves, you have the packages, you have the foodstuffs, you have the candies, etc. So that one thing goes that way. Christmas trees, you have the topiary trees, you have the dogwood trees, you have the Christmas trees, and you go on and on, all the legends go along with that as well. Dickens, you have a whole series there and what have you. But there's one that, a family that brought me something, and I get sometimes some gifts that I really, really appreciate for my own self. They brought me one of these little German houses with, when the weather changes, the man comes out or the woman comes out. You know that one?
Mm-hmm.
So I should do that at one of the balls. But
Like
I have to get more of the story connected with it.
like the clock then, you know, as they come out and they're
Right.
yeah.
Well, actually, some of them like in Neustadt, Nuremberg, I should say, have one that they have a clock above it, and they do around and around and around.
Right.
But I think this one, especially since they gave this to me, precious thing, one of the old ones, they have maybe 15 of them. So they gave me one that they have, so that's one of the things I have to do. Also in Lakewood, I should actually do Lakewood High School, who is Johnny Appleseed.
Okay.
But I have to have the right painter to paint it because it has to look like that.
Right.
Sometimes I'll have an idea and I think it's one more, and when they do it, it doesn't work. Then we have to redo it until finally it's the same, what it should be.
So, again, going back to the customer base and folks that you meet, that you see coming in your store or wherever you might go, and I'm sure there's many people that come through that tell you about their traditions and how Hixson's has impacted them, or how, you know, what it means to them. So what do you hope that people take from yourself or Hixson's when they visit?
Many people will come in here and say they want to come I'm in a low though. I want to come in and feel better. We got that all the time to come back here anyway. Because this room over here is set up here around for Christmas. This one starts here, so October is ready. We got a little earlier.
Okay.
Because of the 19 that we're into, so they will take it from March until now. Anyway, or I hear them say, I had to get into the mood of Christmas. I come here to get in the mood. We also get people, I haven't been here for 30 years. But I remember when I was a child. They may not buy much. If they don't buy anything, I said to them, did you enjoy the day? Did you get a few pictures? Could you do me a favor? You don't have to buy anything, but can you tell 6 people later on when you leave the place?
Yep.
And that's how we expand.
That's probably the best.
Well, a rainbow, it's not worth very much unless you have somebody to share it with. A sunset can be most beautiful, but if you don't have somebody to share it with, it's not as important. To me, this is my rainbow and my sunsets.
Yes, it is.
People
Yes, it
come
is.
here. You know, you can't see these figures anymore. The Scrooge and Tiny Tim will have the people out front as well. We have the Wizard of Oz on this store here. We have Mr. Jingling around the corner here. And the piece that actually came from the Hallies was a 2 pieces of wood that made it look like a doorway and then set on the floor. And the painting is of the early Mr. Jingling, not the later one. Okay. So I also have the early Mr. Jingling. And so a lot of times, like, we had a family come here, and all the family, out of the 5 children, got an ornament that was indicative of what they wanted to buy. And it had a legend for the robin, or for the lighthouse, or the ships, or whatever they had. But one little girl had a mouse. I said, I don't have a story of a mouse. But you're going to be here for about a half an hour? Oh yeah. I saw a write you a story about the mouse. So I have a story that goes with the mouse now.
Oh, neat.
A story or legend has to start someplace, doesn't it?
That's right.
So I'll take credit for a few of them. There's just a number I could go through the book here and say, that's one I wrote, that's one I wrote, that's one I wrote, that's one I wrote.
That's fun.
Plus, once you have the old stories, you can see where they're coming from, so you can take and adapt it.
Right.
But it has to be something charming, warm, homespun. It can't be too much up in the air.
Yeah. Well, I know I have enjoyed this store, and my wife and I have been to many so-called Christmas stores around the United States, and in my opinion, they don't hold a candle to your shop.
Well, the thing is, this was the first you came to. Had you come to that one first, that would be something very important to you also. But as I said, I try to have anything from $2 on up, and I can try to help you find the ornaments. Sometimes I'll ask for certain things I've never been asked for before. I'm trying to think what somebody asked the other day.
That's got to be rare, because you cover a lot of bases here.
We have thousands of ornaments.
Thousands. I mean, you cover the anything for a man cave, sports related, animals, school, children.
Even the casino downtown.
Even the casino downtown. What do you got for the casino? Like a slot machine?
No, we have a slot machine.
Okay. So you got something for the gambler.
And we also have a deck of cards.
Okay. All right.
But the fun part is when you think you've thought it all, you come up with again something different. There's an arrangement where it's right behind you with a violin somewhere. Oh, right, with the sign there. There's a chant behind it.
Yes.
I made that into an ornament, and you can see it in there. It's right in the middle, the second one up. You see it?
Yep.
And it's been one of the popular ones. people want to know what the chant is. I just said you'd have to have it several pages and the whole chant to really know what it says. But the chant is music, and that's what you really.
We actually bought that one. What was it, last
And
year or the year
violin,
before last?
Anyone that learns how to play an instrument has to put a lot of effort into it. So it's also a dedication.
Mm-hmm.
A ballet dancer is one of the most difficult things to, because they spend their life doing that. But it's also to share what they're doing. The sharing is important.
Mm-hmm.
Had they had not anybody to share with, what good would it be?
Right. That's right.
We had a husband and wife that worked for us, and they said, I'd like to have a Raggedy Ann for the front window. Because it's part of growing up, is one of the popular things. So they made it, and it ended up they made a 15-foot one. So I said, the only one place that can go is go in the window. So I put it out the first Christmas, and we put it out the second Christmas, the third Christmas, and we decided we were retired. People knew our store because of Raggedy Ann.
Yep.
So she's been there, she's got to be at least 60 years now. we've given a new facelift, we've given a new hairdo, and all the styrofoam that was inside settled down to the bottom. We had to build a body for her so it would stay that way. I think the last thing we've given her recently was a new pinafore. But it's time to do a new facelift for long.
That's actually, I think early on when we first started coming, that's one of the things I would look for. I'm coming down the road and I'm looking for the Raggedy Ann, and I know that's Mr. Hixson's shop,
Well, and the legends, I don't know if you do it, but a lot of people, when we give you the legend that goes with the ornaments, when it goes out of the box, you put it back in, it goes in that box again.
Mm-hmm.
And you can read that legend.
Mm-hmm.
And that legend now becomes part of your Christmas. And if you have family or children or guests that are there, you can take one of the ornaments and read a story to them, and it's got a story you can tell. You can be the storyteller, not me.
That's right. We have ours displayed in a curio cabinet, and we've got like the little hangers that you have, and they hang there, and then I try to put the legend,
Close
near
by.
it or by it, and have everything kind of correspond. And every year we say, well, we've got to go to Mr. Hixson's shop and buy one to add, and we never walk out with one. Never works. So
Well, during the first time they come, they're overwhelmed. It's the next time they come that they do more. And if they ever leave to Lakewood, and they come back to Lakewood, they buy a lot. Because
Yeah.
they cannot find this atmosphere,
right,
the stories, the legends that go with it, or me personalizing and dating them,
right,
and the wide variety that we have and the costs that we have.
right.
So
Absolutely.
I hope that we become part of the Christmas tradition in the families.
I
You
think
can't buy much as a window display like this.
right. Yeah, window displays are about, they don't do them anymore. There's some people that try or attempt.
Well,
but it's
it
not
used
like
to be that you had the department stores, Sterling, Hallies, whatnot. I know Sterling's had about 10 window display artists.
Mhm.
They did displays throughout the store, but they also made sure the windows were changed.
Mm.
Those are all gone.
Yep. Yeah.
These figures that I talked about, there were $1,000 for some of them. They were given a budget, but at the end of the year they had to spend that. If they didn't spend that, they wouldn't have it for the following year.
Right.
So that's why they could spend $10,000 for something in the window.
Well, I think that's what makes Hixson's though, because not only do you have something for everyone, you have things here, old and new, original and new that tie to some of the earliest memories of people and tied to the earliest traditions that people remember. And they come here just like their parents or their grandparents did at the Halle window. They come to Hixson's because there's a little piece of that history left.
Well, the old people come to get some of that history, and the new people are exposed to it.
Yes. And the tradition continues.
Like we've had several things we don't sell. There's a thermometer is up one. Another thing that's all green cards or green stamp things, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the romance. There's a round stove. A woman in Lakewood called and said, my husband made a lot of these old stoves. We would like to give you one. I went to the house, there was about 12 of them. Some are huge, some are like that. You can choose one of them. I didn't want to be greedy. I didn't want to be foolish. I had the mid-size, this round one here. And unfortunately, I did not get her name.
Mm.
Somebody eventually is going to come to me see my grandmother's one. But then I'll put her name on. But now I found out there was a duplicate of it. It said 1864, I think, on there, at the museum on the east side of town. It has a great big, the museum that has a great big carousel now from Euclid Beach.
Okay, yes.
They have the same one that I have. And there's one that is in, same thing as I have in one in Detroit, where, who is it?
Is it Bonner's?
Market.
One of the,
Oh,
one,
the
of the,
market.
one of the museum is, I think is it made the Ford Museum, North
Oh, Henry Ford? One of
Museum,
those?
yeah.
Okay,
That's one there.
okay.
And by the way, that big tree, that train I said we made is a copy of that one in that museum.
Oh,
It's the most
that big one?
photographed thing in the museum.
Okay, yeah, we were just there last year, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was our first time, and it was, it definitely won't be our last.
Oh, and who's the one that had all the electric lights?
Edison.
Edison.
Yes.
He's another one that has a lot of things over there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mr. Hixson, I certainly appreciate your time and everything that you've done for the community, for Cleveland, for tradition.
There's a lot of people that still haven't been here. We still sell, number one item is still the pickle.
Still at Pickle.
So there's always a lot of people that never heard of it, but once they do it, they're hooked.
That's right.
But unfortunately, the pickle they buy this side, now they're buying a little one. I said, I know what's going to happen. They won't be able to find that. They're going to come back and have to buy another little one.
Well, I thank you for your time today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
And thank you for sharing some of these treasured stories and these memories
Well,
that you have.
As one of my friends said, Bill, somebody lights a candle in Cleveland, you stand up and start talking about Christmas. I love people. Makes a difference too.
Yes. Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Well, everyone, that's going to conclude our presentation and interview featuring Bill Hixson and his wonderful store located at 14125 Detroit Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio. But I think Bill has one more story that he'd like to share with us as an encore. It's a funny story about his favorite ornament, a Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus, where he gave one to former First Lady Laura Bush and how he inscribed it. It's pretty funny. Following that, Bill's going to close for us and let you know more about his store hours and holiday specials going on right now. And until next time, everyone, thank you. This one's history. What's one of your favorite ones?
She wants to see the other side as well.
Yes.
Really detailed.
You can tell the story on it. Or you want me to tell it?
No, go ahead.
We had our computer stolen and we had to have all the different stories that we have on the list. And the list that goes with this one is every successful man has a good woman behind. Or conversely, every successful woman has a good man behind. After Laura Bush had received this, that was about 6 months before her computer was stolen, a man came in and said, "You realize what you've been giving out?" I said, "Sure. Every successful man has a good woman behind, or conversely, every successful woman has a good man." He said, "Read it. Every successful man has a good behind." Dear God. So I quickly went and checked. That was the only thing we had in our paper, and I wasn't reading it. So I quickly did it properly and sent it off to Laura Bush and said, "I don't know which one you want to keep. It's up to you." And she wrote back, "The story's too good. We're going to keep both the stories."
That's great.
One last thing, we revamped our store since the time we were closed in March until July. So there's more space to walk through. But Christmas is always a very busy time. Many of the people that have been in recently, there's not so many people in the store. So you can come in and really spend as much time as you like and what have you. And also, we decided to welcome those people. We give 10% throughout the store. The entire store, whatever we have, is 10% off. And if you're a Christmas Grass Club member, you get 20% off at Christmas. And sometimes I'm sure some of you people are going to have that red card, because once you get close to $100, you'll get one of those red cards, and then you always get special deals.
Sounds good.
So come in early. We're open daily from 10 until 6, Tuesday through Saturday, until we get close to Thanksgiving, and then we start opening Sunday and Monday as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.